Captain Hyun Minho stood in the control room of Sentinel-7, watching the stars through the massive window. Earth floated below like a blue marble, peaceful and quiet. But space around it was anything but peaceful. Out there, beyond human territory, two massive alien empires were tearing each other apart. Minho had been watching the war for 12 years now. Every day his screen showed flashes of light in distant star systems. Those flashes were battles. Each one meant thousands of ships destroyed, millions of lives lost. The Velcor Dominion and the Thrain Collective had been fighting for 300 years. Nobody even remembered why the war started anymore. "Captain, another fleet just passed through Sector 9, said a young officer at the radar station. "Velcor, looks like. Heading toward the border." Minho nodded. The border, that imaginary line that separated the two empires, ran close to Earth. Too close. Humanity had drawn its own line 15 years ago when they first developed faster-than-light travel. 50 light-years around the sun. That was human space. Stay out, they told both empires. Surprisingly, both sides listened. Not because they respected humanity. Earth had only 400 warships. The Velcor had millions. The Thrain had millions more. No, they stayed out because Earth was too small to matter. One planet. One star system. A few colonies on nearby worlds. Nothing worth fighting over. Minho walked to his desk and picked up the morning report. 3 Velcor destroyers spotted near the boundary. 2 Thrain cruisers mining asteroids just outside the 50 light-year line. A weapons test detected near Proxima Centauri. Barely beyond human territory. The war was getting closer. On Earth, Admiral Kang Yuna was dealing with politicians. She sat in a conference room deep under Seoul, facing the Global Defense Council. 27 faces on screens from every nation on Earth, all asking the same question. Should we pick a side? Yuna kept her voice calm and steady. She had answered this question 100 times. No, we stay neutral. But Admiral, said the representative from Brazil, the Velcor have offered us technology, advanced shields, weapons that could protect our colonies. In exchange for what? Yuna asked. They want our star systems as forward bases. They want to put their ships in our territory. They want to use Earth as a shield. The Thrain have made similar offers, added the Japanese minister. And they want the same thing, Yuna replied. Both sides see us as tools. Join one and the other becomes our enemy. We cannot win that fight. Our only choice is to stay out completely. The council members looked at each other. Finally, the American president spoke. How long can we maintain this position? Yuna pulled up a star map. As long as we stay small and unimportant, the moment we become valuable to either side, we become a target for both. Far from Earth, on a moon orbiting Jupiter, Dr. Han Jisoo worked in her laboratory. The Luna Research Facility was humanity's best science station. Here, scientists studied everything they could learn about the galaxy, especially the two empires fighting to control it. Jisoo held a piece of metal in her gloved hands. It was a fragment from a Thrain missile, recovered from a battle near Alpha Centauri. Human scavenger ships sometimes collected debris from the war. Every piece taught them something new. The antimatter containment is elegant, she said to her assistant, but also terrifying. 1 gram of this could destroy a city. Both empires use similar weapons, her assistant noted. Yes, Jisoo agreed. They're very good at destroying things. Both of them. She placed the fragment back in its containment field. We need to understand their technology. Not to use it, but to defend against it. Because one day they might use it on us. Her assistant looked worried. You think they will? Jisoo looked out the window at the distant stars. I think powerful people eventually use their power. It's just a matter of time. Across the galaxy at a massive space station that served as the Galactic Council headquarters, Ambassador Park Dong-hae sat in a room full of aliens. Most of them barely noticed him. Humanity was too new, too weak to matter in galactic politics. The Velcor ambassador, a tall creature with purple skin and 4 arms, was speaking. The Thrain violated the neutral zone near Sector 47. We demand the Council condemn this action. The Thrain ambassador, a being made of what looked like living crystal, responded immediately. You fired first. Our ships were defending themselves. You were in restricted space. Space you claim but do not control. Dong-hae watched them argue. This was the Galactic Council. Supposedly, it existed to maintain peace and resolve conflicts. In reality, it was a stage where the two empires shouted at each other. Smaller species sat quietly, afraid to take sides. He thought about speaking up, about reminding them that their war was spreading, threatening neutral worlds. But he stayed silent. Nobody would listen anyway. After the meeting, a small alien approached him. It looked like a floating jellyfish with glowing tentacles. The Krell, Dong-Hae remembered. A species enslaved by the Thrain 50 years ago. Your people are wise to stay neutral, the Krell whispered. Both empires are monsters. They destroy everything they touch. Before Dong-Hae could respond, a Thrain guard approached. The Krell floated away quickly. Dong-Hae understood. Even here at the council, the conquered species were watched, controlled. It made him wonder what would happen to Earth if humanity ever lost its independence. Back at Sentinel-7, Lieutenant Choi Nari climbed into her fighter cockpit. She was young, only 23, but already the best pilot in Earth's defense fleet. Today was a routine patrol along the boundary. All systems green, she reported to the control tower. Copy that, Swift One. Standard patrol route. Stay inside the boundary. Nari launched her fighter into the black. She loved this. The freedom of space. The stars all around her. She flew past Earth's orbital defense stations, massive rings of weapons and shields protecting the planet. They looked impressive, but Nari knew the truth. One Velcor dreadnought could destroy all of them in an hour. She reached the boundary and slowed down. Her sensors showed something interesting. A debris field, fresh. She activated her camera and scanned it. Control, this is Swift One. I'm seeing wreckage at marker 773. Looks like a recent battle. How recent? Maybe a day old. Both Velcor and Thrain debris. They fought right next to our boundary. There was silence from control. Then Minho's voice came through. Document everything and return to base. Do not cross the boundary. Understood, Captain. As Nari photographed the wreckage, she saw something that made her blood run cold, a piece of hull plating with human writing on it. Then she understood. This wasn't just near the boundary. This debris field extended into human space. The battle had spilled over the line, they had been violated, and neither empire had even bothered to tell them. Nari flew back to Sentinel-7 with the evidence. When Minho saw the photos, his face went dark. He immediately called Admiral Yuna. They crossed the line, he told her. Yuna stared at the images on her screen. This changes things. Should we protest? To who? They won't care. We're insects to them. Yuna closed her eyes for a moment. But this is just a skirmish. A small violation. We can't overreact. And if it happens again, then we deal with it then. But Yuna's voice was troubled. She had spent 12 years keeping Earth safe through neutrality. Now that safety felt fragile, at the Lunar Research Facility, Jisu's computer alerted her to something. Her sensors had detected a massive energy spike near human space. Something big was happening out there. She pulled up the data and felt her stomach drop. Two enormous fleets were converging, Velcor and Thrain, thousands of ships on each side. And they were heading straight toward the human boundary. She grabbed her communicator. This is Dr. Han to Earth Defense Command. We have a situation. A major fleet engagement is about to occur and it's heading right toward us. Yuna answered immediately. How long until they reach the boundary? Jisu checked her calculations. 6 hours. Maybe less. Will they stop? Jisu looked at the data. The two fleets were locked in pursuit. The Thrain were running. The Velcor were chasing. Neither showed any sign of changing course. No, she said quietly. I don't think they will. Yuna's face appeared on the screen. For the first time in 12 years, the Admiral looked afraid. Get to the shelter. Alert all colonies. This is not a drill. Across human space, alarms began to sound. People looked up at the sky, knowing that somewhere out there, death was approaching. The war they had avoided for so long was about to arrive on their doorstep, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. The battle came like a storm. Minho watched from Sentinel-7 as the two fleets collided just beyond the human boundary. Explosions lit up space like fireworks. Each flash was a ship dying. Each burst of light meant hundreds, maybe thousands of lives ended. They're crossing into our space, shouted an officer. Minho saw it happening. A Thrain warship, massive and wounded, was being chased by 3 Velcor destroyers. They were firing everything they had. Plasma bolts, missiles, energy beams that cut through space like knives. Broadcast on all frequencies, Minho ordered. Tell them to stop. Tell them they're in human territory. The communications officer tried. Attention alien vessels, you are violating Earth sovereignty. Withdraw immediately. Nobody answered. The ships didn't even slow down. They just kept fighting, punching through the invisible line that was supposed to protect humanity. The Thrain warship was called the Eternal Blade. It was losing the fight badly. One of its engines exploded. The ship began to spin out of control, and it was heading straight toward Mars. "Get me the Mars colonies," Minho yelled. "Evacuate now." But it was too late. The Eternal Blade hit Mars like a meteor. The impact was massive. The ship crashed into the northern settlements where 12,000 humans lived and worked. The explosion could be seen from Earth. When the dust cleared, 127 people were dead, crushed, burned, gone in an instant, and still the battle continued around them. The Velcor destroyers fired at the crashed ship, not caring that it had landed on a human colony. Their weapons tore through the wreckage and hit buildings, killing more people. "Launch all fighters," Minho said, his voice cold and hard. "Get our people out of there." Nari was already in her cockpit when the order came. She launched with 30 other fighters racing toward Mars. Behind them came rescue ships and medical transports. The space around Mars was chaos, debris everywhere, fires burning in the thin atmosphere. And the Velcor ships were still there, circling the crash site. "This is Earth defense," Nari broadcast. "You are attacking a human colony. Cease fire immediately," a Velcor ship responded. The voice was mechanical, translated by computer. "Clear the area. This is a military operation. You're on our planet," Nari shouted back. "Unimportant. Withdraw or be destroyed." Nari felt rage burning in her chest, but she had orders. "Get the survivors. Don't start a war." She led her fighters down to the surface, dodging Velcor fire that wasn't even aimed at them. They were just shooting through human space like it didn't exist. Minho brought every ship he could to Mars. They formed a shield around the rescue operations. When a Velcor destroyer came too close, Minho put his station between it and the planet. "Sir, they're targeting us," said his weapons officer. "Hold position," Minho replied. "Don't fire unless they fire first." For 10 long seconds, the Velcor ship's weapons locked onto Sentinel-7. Minho's crew waited, barely breathing. Then the alien ship turned away, not because it feared Earth's weapons, simply because killing humans would take time, and it wanted to chase other Thrain ships more. That's what hurt the most. They weren't even worth killing. The rescue took 6 hours. Nari flew 4 trips carrying survivors each time. On her last run, she saw a little girl, maybe 8 years old, crying over her father's body. The girl's name was Yunji. Her father had been a farmer trying to grow food in Mars's domes. Now he was gone. Nari picked up Yunji and carried her to the rescue ship. The girl didn't say a word. She just stared at the sky where the alien ships were still fighting. On Earth, Yuna watched the news broadcasts with a sick feeling in her stomach. Every channel showed the same images. The crashed ship, the destroyed colonies, the bodies. The people were angry, scared, and they wanted answers. The Global Defense Council held an emergency meeting. This time everyone was shouting, "We must respond. This is an act of war." Both empires ignored our sovereignty. Yuna let them yell for a few minutes. Then she spoke, her voice cutting through the noise. "What do you suggest? We have 400 ships. They have millions. If we declare war, Earth will be destroyed in a week. So we do nothing?" demanded the Russian premier. 127 people are dead. "I know," Yuna said quietly. "I saw the bodies. I read their names. Every single one." She pulled up a hologram showing the 2 fleets. "But emotion won't save us. We need to think clearly." Ambassador Donghae attended an emergency session of the Galactic Council. He stood before hundreds of alien species and demanded justice. His hands shook with anger as he spoke. Both the Velcor and Thrain violated neutral space. They killed innocent civilians. They ignored our communications. They treated human lives as meaningless. We demand accountability. The Velcor ambassador didn't even look at him. Regrettable, but these things happen in war. Your people should not have been in the combat zone. It wasn't a combat zone, Donghae shouted. It was our home. The Thrain ambassador spoke next. Its crystalline body pulsed with light. The Velcor drove our ship into your planet. Blame them, not us. You were both in our territory, Donghae said. Both of you violated our space. The council chairman, a massive creature with too many eyes, tapped his staff. The council has heard your complaint. We will consider it, that was it. Just consider it. No punishment. No consequences. No apology. Donghae left the chamber knowing the truth. To the great empires, humanity was nothing. Insects, dust. Not worth even a moment of real concern. On the moon, Jisoo examined the wreckage of the Eternal Blade. Earth had claimed salvage rights, and pieces of the ship were brought to her laboratory. What she found made everything worse. "Look at this," she told her assistant, pointing to a screen. "The ship's navigation logs. I recovered them from the computer core. What do they show? The battle wasn't an accident. The Velcor deliberately chased the Thrain toward human space. They knew what would happen. They wanted to trap them where there was no room to run. They used us as a trap? Yes, and look here." Jisoo pulled up more data. The Thrain ship's captain knew they were entering human space. He sent a message to his fleet command. They told him to crash on Mars if necessary. Better to damage human property than lose the ship to the Velcor. Her assistant stared at the data in horror. Both sides planned this. Both sides were willing to hurt us. Worse, Jisoo said. They didn't even consider the possibility that we would matter. In their calculations, human casualties were just numbers, less important than tactical advantage. She sent her findings to Admiral Yuna. When Yuna read the report, she sat alone in her office for a long time. Then she called Captain Minho. "I need you to activate the entire defense fleet," she said. "Every ship, every station, everyone goes on full alert." "Are we going to war?" Minho asked. "Not yet, but we're going to make sure we can defend ourselves. I won't let this happen again." Over the next 2 weeks, more battles spilled into human space. A fight near Proxima Centauri damaged a mining station, killing 38 people. Stray missiles hit a transport ship near Alpha Centauri, killing 200. A Velcor weapons test destroyed a science satellite that had been monitoring the war. Each time humanity protested. Each time both empires ignored them or gave meaningless apologies. Regrettable losses. Acceptable casualties in a greater conflict. Your people should stay farther from the war zone. The message was clear. Earth didn't matter. Human lives didn't matter. The two great empires would fight wherever they wanted, and humanity could do nothing to stop them. Then came the hospital ship. The medical transport called Hope's Light was moving wounded civilians from Mars to Earth. It was clearly marked with medical symbols. Its transponder broadcast medical status on all frequencies. There were 2,000 patients on board. Doctors, nurses, children injured in the first attack. A Velcor cruiser detected it and sent a warning. "Transport, you are near a military zone. Change course." The Hope's Light captain responded immediately. "This is a medical vessel with wounded civilians. We are heading to Earth. We are unarmed. Change course or be destroyed. We are protected under galactic medical conventions. We have wounded on board." The Velcor ship didn't care about conventions. Its captain saw a potential target that might be hiding Thrain soldiers. Or supplies. Or something valuable. It took 3 seconds to decide. Then it fired. The Hope's Light exploded. All 2,000 people died instantly. Among them was little Yunji, the girl Nari had rescued from Mars. She had been going to Earth for treatment. Now she was gone. When the news reached Earth, the planet went silent. No more protests. No more diplomatic messages. No more debates in the council chambers. Admiral Yuna sat in her office and wrote a message. It was short, simple. She broadcast it on every frequency both empires could hear. "You have violated our sovereignty. You have killed our people. You have ignored our pleas. We asked only to be left alone. You brought war to our homes. You treated us like we don't exist. You killed our children." She paused, her eyes hard and cold. "You have made a terrible mistake. This is your only warning. Withdraw from human space immediately, or learn what happens when you corner humans. We will not ask again." Both empires received the message. Both ignored it. Earth had 400 ships. What could they possibly do? They were about to find out. The Global Defense Council met one final time. Every representative was present. Every face was grim. They had all seen the footage of the Hope's Light exploding. They had all read the casualty reports. 3,000 humans dead in 2 weeks, and both empires acted like nothing had happened. "We vote now," said the council chairman. "War against both the Velcor Dominion and the Thrain Collective. All in favor?" Every hand went up. Every single one. For the first time in human history, the entire planet was united. Not by hope or dreams of peace, but by rage. Admiral Yuna stood before the cameras and addressed not just Earth, but the entire galaxy. Her message was translated into every known language and broadcast on all frequencies. To the Velcor Dominion and the Thrain Collective. You wanted to see what humans do when you push us. You wanted to see if we would fight. Now you know. We declare war on both of you. Not because we want your territory. Not because we care about your ancient conflicts. But because you came to our homes and killed our families. You treated us like insects. Now you will learn that even insects bite. The message was simple, direct. Some species in the galaxy laughed. Earth fighting the two greatest empires? It was suicide, foolish, impossible. But humans didn't care what others thought. They were done being victims. Captain Minho gathered his fleet commanders in the war room. 400 ships, that's all they had, against millions. The numbers were ridiculous, impossible. But Minho wasn't thinking about winning through numbers. We can't fight them head on, he told his officers. We'll lose. But we don't need to fight fair. We need to fight smart. He pulled up a star map. Both empires are used to fighting each other. Big fleets, big battles. They fight for control of systems and resources. But we're not fighting for territory. We're fighting to make them leave us alone. Commander Daehyun, captain of the destroyer Strong Wind, spoke up. What's the plan? Hit and run, ambushes, traps. Make every fight cost them more than it's worth. Minho zoomed in on a sector near Proxima Centauri. The Velcor have a patrol group here. 12 ships. They use this route to watch our border. We're going to destroy them. How? Asked another captain. Minho smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. We're going to cheat. 3 days later, the Velcor patrol entered an asteroid field on their usual route. They had passed through this field 100 times. But this time was different. This time humans were waiting. Minho's ships had hidden inside the asteroids, powered down to almost nothing. Human ships were smaller than alien ships, easier to hide. The Velcor sensors swept past them, seeing only rocks and ice. When the patrol was deep in the field, Minho gave the order. Now, human ships exploded from their hiding places. They didn't use their regular weapons. Instead, they used technology stolen from both empires. Velcor shield generators, Thrain missile designs. Human engineers had studied every piece of salvage from the war. Now they used that knowledge, but humans added something new, something neither empire had considered. They hacked the Velcor identification systems. For 60 seconds, the Velcor patrol's computers thought the attacking ships were friendly. By the time they realized the truth, it was too late. 10 Velcor ships were destroyed in the first minute. The last two tried to run. Minho's flagship, the Earth's Hammer, chased them down. The Velcor were faster, but Minho didn't need to catch them. He just needed to drive them into the trap. The fleeing ships hit a minefield. Human-designed mines hidden in the asteroids. The explosions were beautiful and terrible. When the light faded, the entire patrol was gone. All ships report, Minho said. No losses, sir. Minor damage to Swift Current's shields. Minho nodded. They had won without losing a single ship. But he knew this was just the beginning. The Velcor would send more ships. Bigger ships. They had only made the Empire angry. That was fine. Humanity was angry too. Lieutenant Nari led the fighter wings in a different kind of attack. The Thrain had a supply convoy moving through space near human territory. Big, slow cargo ships carrying weapons and fuel to the front lines. They had escorts, of course. 20 warships protecting 50 cargo vessels. Nari's plan was crazy. Suicidal, some said, but she volunteered anyway. We go in fast, she told her wing. Use the star's radiation to hide. Hit the escorts first, then the cargo ships. Don't stop. Don't slow down. We make one pass and we're out. The star's radiation will damage our ships, said one of her pilots. Yes, Nari agreed, but we can take it. Our ships are smaller. We can handle radiation for a few minutes. The Thrain shields will protect them from it. But that means their shields are busy. Not focused on us, they flew straight toward the system's sun. The radiation was intense. Nari could hear alarms going off in her cockpit. Her skin felt hot. The computer warned her about dangerous exposure. She ignored it all. The Thrain convoy never saw them coming. Hidden in the star's glare, human fighters emerged like ghosts. Nari led them straight into the Thrain formation. She targeted the lead escort ship. Her weapons were new, designed by Dr. Han Jisoo specifically to break Thrain shields. She fired, and the escort's shields collapsed. 3 more fighters hit it with missiles. The ship broke apart. Her wing destroyed 6 escorts in 30 seconds. The cargo ships panicked and scattered. Big mistake. Scattered targets were easier to hunt. Nari's fighter dove through the chaos. She placed magnetic charges on a cargo ship's hull, special charges that would stick and explode on a timer. She hit 3 ships before the Thrain realized what was happening. "Break off! Break off!" she ordered. The fighters raced away from the sun. Behind them, the charges exploded. The cargo ships carried fuel and ammunition. The explosions created a chain reaction. Ship after ship erupted. By the time it was over, 45 of the 50 cargo ships were destroyed. Nari made it back to base with radiation burns on her arms and face. The medics treated her while her commander yelled at her for taking stupid risks, but the mission was a success. The Thrain had lost a major supply shipment, and Nari had shown that human pilots were willing to fly through hell itself to hurt their enemies. On Earth's moon, Dr. Jisoo was working on something special. She called it the Reaper Project. Her team had been building these weapons in secret for months. Drones, she explained to Admiral Yuna. Small, unmanned ships. We pack them with antimatter warheads and send them at enemy vessels. Kamikaze drones, Yuna asked. Yes, but controlled by artificial intelligence. They can think, adapt, find weak points in enemy shields. Jisoo pulled up a simulation. Neither the Velcor nor the Thrain use AI in warfare. They signed treaties against it centuries ago, some kind of ancient war that made them afraid of smart machines. But we never signed those treaties. Exactly. We're going to use technology they're too afraid to use. The first test was against a Velcor destroyer that had entered human space. The ship was alone, scanning for targets. It detected the Reaper drone approaching and fired at it. But the drone was fast, smart. It dodged the weapons fire and flew straight into the destroyer's engine port. The explosion tore the ship in half. Yuna watched the test results and smiled. "How many can you build?" "As many as you need," Jisoo replied. "We have factories on Mars, the Moon, and 3 other colonies. I can have 1,000 ready in a month. Make it 2,000. Over the next 3 months, humanity fought a war unlike anything the galaxy had seen. They didn't fight for territory. They fought to make both empires hurt. Every convoy attacked. Every patrol ambushed. Every forward base hit with drone strikes. The Velcor and Thrain were confused. This wasn't how wars were supposed to work. Where were the big fleet battles? Where were the attempts to conquer systems? The humans were just hurting them, making them bleed, making every ship they sent into human space a potential loss, and the losses were adding up. 300 Velcor ships destroyed, 200 Thrain vessels eliminated. It wasn't much compared to the millions they had, but it was more than they expected to lose against such a small enemy. Captain Minho's fleet grew more experienced with each battle. They learned to work together, to trust each other. Human ships started painting kill marks on their hulls. Minho's flagship, Earth's Hammer, had destroyed 17 enemy ships. He was proud of that, but he was more proud that his people were surviving. Fighting smart kept them alive. Then came the message that changed everything. Ambassador Donghae sent word from the Galactic Council. 3 species had contacted him in secret. The Krell, the Novar, the Talrin, all conquered peoples, all enslaved by the empires. They want to rebel, Donghae reported. But they're afraid. They need support. They need proof that the empires can be hurt. Yuna looked at the tactical displays. Human forces had pushed both empires out of the 50 light-year zone. The boundary was secure, but Earth was still alone. Still outnumbered. What are you thinking? Minho asked. I'm thinking we need allies, Yuna replied. We can't win this war alone. But if other species join us, if we can turn this into a real rebellion against both empires, it's risky. We'd be taking on more responsibility, more fronts to defend. We're already at war with 2 empires, Yuna said. How much worse can it get? She sent a message to the 3 species. Simple words that would echo across the galaxy. We will stand with you. Rebel. Fight. We will help you be free. Within a week, the Krell staged an uprising on their homeworld. 6 months into the war, everything had changed. The human fleet that had started with 400 ships now numbered over 2,000. But most of those ships weren't built by humans alone. The Krell, freed from Thrain slavery, had reopened their factories. These insect beings were natural builders. They could construct ships faster than any other species. Now they built vessels for the rebellion, using human designs mixed with their own technology. The Novar contributed their knowledge of energy systems. Their water-rich worlds had taught them how to generate and store massive amounts of power. Human ships fitted with Novar generators could fire weapons twice as long without overheating. The Tal'Ren shared their stealth technology. Their species had evolved to fly silently through their world's dangerous skies. Now human fighters could move through space almost invisible to enemy sensors. Captain Minho stood on the bridge of his new flagship. The Earth's hammer had been destroyed in a battle near Proxima Centauri, but he had survived. Now he commanded the Phoenix Rising, a ship built by Krell workers using human plans. It was twice as large as his old ship and 3 times as deadly. "Status report," he said to his crew. "First strike fleet is assembled, sir. 2,000 ships ready. Human, Krell, Novar, and Tal'Ren vessels all reporting ready for combat." Minho looked at the tactical display. Admiral Yuna had promoted him to Commodore and given him command of humanity's first combined alien fleet. It was an honor. It was also terrifying. So many lives depending on his decisions. "Our target?" he asked. "Velcor shipyards in the Antares system. Intelligence says they're building a new class of dreadnought there." Minho studied the target. The shipyards were heavily defended. Hundreds of stations, thousands of defense platforms. This would be the biggest battle humanity had ever fought. "Send to all ships. We jump in 1 hour." On Earth, Admiral Yuna was planning something even more dangerous. She stood before a holographic map showing both empires' territories. Red dots marked Velcor worlds. Blue dots marked Thrain systems. And scattered throughout were green dots. Rebellions, uprisings, freed worlds. "We're winning," said Commander Daehyun, who had been promoted to her strategic staff. "Both empires are losing ground." "We're surviving," Yuna corrected. "That's not the same as winning." "Look at the numbers," she zoomed out. The map showed the true scale of the war. The Empire still controlled thousands of worlds. Millions of ships. Even with rebellions, even with human victories, the empires were still giants. "We need to hurt them badly," Yuna said. "Make them feel real pain. Not just lost patrols or destroyed convoys. We need to hit their ability to make war." "The shipyards," Daehyun said, "both of them." At the same time, Yuna pulled up 2 targets. The Velcor yards at Antares. The Thrain construction facilities at Betelgeuse. "We split our forces and hit both. They'll have to pull ships back to defend. That gives the rebellions breathing room. It's risky. If we fail, we lose half our fleet. If we do nothing, we lose slowly. I'd rather take the risk." She opened a communication channel to Minho. "Commodore, your mission is approved. Hit Antares hard. Make them remember." "Understood, Admiral." "What about you?" Yuna smiled. "I'm leading the attack on Betelgeuse myself." Minho's eyes widened. "Admiral, you're the Supreme Commander. You shouldn't be in combat. I'm also a soldier. My people are fighting and dying. I should be with them." She ended the call before he could argue. Lieutenant Nari was also getting promoted. She was now Wing Commander Nari, in charge of 300 fighters. She had lost her left arm in a dogfight 2 months ago. A Thrain plasma bolt had torn through her cockpit and destroyed everything below her elbow. The doctors had wanted to give her a cybernetic replacement. Fast, efficient, better than the original, but Nari had refused. She wanted a prosthetic she could feel through neural connections. She wanted to remember the cost. Every time she gripped her flight stick, she felt the artificial fingers. It reminded her why she fought. Her fighters were gathering for the Antares assault. Looking at her pilots, Nari saw humans, Krell, and Tal'Ren all working together. The Krell pilot beside her ship was named Sek. He communicated through clicking sounds. Translated by computer. "Ready for battle." "Commander," Sek clicked. "Stay close." "Sek, we're going into hell." "Good. My people know hell. The Thrain taught us. Now we teach them back." The 2 fleets jumped to their targets simultaneously. Minho's force arrived at Antares to find exactly what they expected. Massive shipyards, dozens of half-built dreadnoughts, and 500 defense ships waiting for them. "All ships, attack formation Delta," Minho ordered. "Fighters, you're up." Nari led her wing toward the shipyards. The Velcor defense ships moved to intercept. Energy weapons lit up space. Missiles crossed the distance in seconds. The first human ship to die was the carrier Shield of Hope. A Velcor destroyer hit it with antimatter torpedoes. 300 people gone in an instant, but the rebels kept coming. Krell ships, tough and heavily armored, pushed forward like battering rams. Novar vessels fired from long range, their powerful generators letting them shoot continuously. Talran fighters slipped through the chaos like ghosts. Nari's target was the largest shipyard, a massive ring-shaped station where 3 dreadnoughts were under construction. She dove through enemy fire, her fighter dancing between explosions. 2 members of her wing didn't make it. She saw them die on her scanner. No time to mourn, no time to think. She reached the station and launched her entire payload. Fusion bombs designed by Dr. Jisoo specifically for this mission. They stuck to the station's hull and Nari flew away as fast as her ship could go. The explosions were enormous. The fusion bombs triggered the station's own power generators. The resulting blast destroyed all 3 unfinished dreadnoughts and took out a dozen nearby defense platforms. Target destroyed, Nari reported. Moving to secondary target. Across the system, Minho coordinated the attack. It was chaos. Beautiful, terrible chaos. Ships exploding. Stations burning. People dying on both sides. But the rebels were winning. Slowly. Painfully. They were winning. "Sir, the Velcor are pulling back," reported his tactical officer. "Don't let them regroup. All ships pursue. Destroy everything." At Betelgeuse, Admiral Yuna was fighting her own battle. The Thrain construction facilities were different from Velcor yards. Instead of stations, they grew their ships in massive organic structures that floated in space like crystal gardens. Yuna's ship, the Indomitable Will, led the attack. The Thrain defenders were ready. They had known an attack might come, but they hadn't expected the ferocity of the assault. "All weapons fire," Yuna ordered. The Indomitable Will unleashed everything it had: missiles, plasma cannons, railguns, and the new weapon Dr. Jisoo had developed. A beam that collapsed quantum shields by matching their frequency and inverting the field. A Thrain battleship's shields vanished. Without protection, the ship lasted only seconds under concentrated fire. "Target the growth chambers," Yuna said. "Destroy their ability to make new ships." Her fleet tore through the Thrain defenses. It was brutal, costly. Yuna watched her ships die one by one. The destroyer Braveheart, the cruiser Final Stand. The medical ship Mercy caught in crossfire, each loss hurt. Each name was recorded. These were her people, her responsibility. But she couldn't stop. Wouldn't stop. This was war. This was the price of freedom. The growth chambers were destroyed. Years of construction work ruined in hours. The Thrain would rebuild eventually, but not soon. Not fast enough to replace what they were losing. Both attacks succeeded, but the cost was terrible. Minho lost 400 ships at Antares. Nearly 1,000 dead or wounded. Yuna's assault on Betelgeuse cost 300 ships and killed 600 people. When the fleets returned home, Earth mourned. Every ship that came back carried the wounded, the traumatized, the exhausted. Memorial services were held in every city. Names were read aloud. Faces were shown on screens. Dr. Jisoo worked without rest in her laboratory. Every death drove her to develop better weapons, better shields, anything to protect human lives. She hadn't slept properly in months. Her staff worried about her health. "You need to rest," her assistant said. "I'll rest when they're dead," Jisoo replied, staring at her computer. Both empires. Every ship. Every soldier who thought it was okay to kill humans. That's not possible. Then I'll die trying. She was developing something new. Something that could change the war entirely. She had discovered that both empires used shield technology stolen from an ancient race called the Architects. The Velcor and Thrain shields looked different but worked on the same basic principles. If she could find the right frequency, the right quantum signature, she could potentially collapse all their shields at once. Every ship, every station, all of them vulnerable at the same time. It was theoretical, untested, maybe impossible. But Jisoo kept working on it. Meanwhile, Ambassador Donghae was playing a different kind of game. He had been talking to factions within both empires, war-weary groups who wanted peace, politicians who saw the rebellions as a threat to their power, military commanders tired of fighting. "The empires are not united," he reported to Yuna. "Both have internal divisions, groups who hate each other almost as much as they hate their enemies." "Can we use that?" Yuna asked. "Maybe, if we can promise them something. Safety, territory, a place in whatever comes after this war." Earth had 48 hours to prepare for death. Every ship in the rebellion was called home. Human vessels, Krell warships, Novar cruisers, Tauran scouts. They came from across the galaxy, racing through hyperspace to reach Sol before the enemy arrived. Admiral Yuna stood in Earth Defense Command, deep under Sol, watching the friendly ships arrive one by one. Her fleet had grown to 800 ships, strong, impressive, but not enough. Not nearly enough. Status on the Allied forces? She asked. Commander Daehyun checked his screens. The Krell are sending 4,000 mining ships. They've attached weapons to them. Not proper warships, but they can fight. The Novar? 600 water carriers, modified with missile platforms. They're slow but tough. Talrin? 2,000 scouts. They've been upgrading their stealth systems. Yuna did the math. 8,000 ships total, against 10,000. Better odds than she expected. But the enemy ships were proper warships, dreadnoughts, carriers, destroyers built for war. Many of her allied ships were civilian vessels with guns strapped on. What about other species? She asked. The neutral ones we've been talking to? Donghae appeared on the screen from the Galactic Council station. 15 species have agreed to help. They're sending whatever they can spare, another 3,000 ships. Yuna felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope, small, fragile, but real. Why? She asked. Why would they risk this? Donghae smiled sadly. Because you asked them to be left alone. You didn't want to conquer anyone. You didn't want to rule the galaxy. You just wanted peace, and when the empires wouldn't give it to you, you fought back. Every small species in the galaxy has watched. They know if the empires crush you, they could be next. So they're fighting for themselves, they're fighting for the future. A galaxy where being small doesn't mean being helpless. In her laboratory on the moon, Dr. Jisoo had not slept in 3 days. Her eyes were red. Her hands shook from too much caffeine. But she was close, so close. The frequency modulator is ready, she told her team. If this works, we can collapse every shield in the enemy fleet at the same time. If it works, her assistant repeated. Jisoo, we haven't tested this. We don't know if it's stable. We don't have time for tests. We have one shot. Either it works or we die anyway. She looked at the weapon. It was built into the lunar research facility itself. The entire station had been converted into a massive energy cannon. It would draw power directly from the sun through quantum tethering. One shot, that's all they would get. How powerful is it? Admiral Yuna asked over the communication link. Powerful enough to destroy a dreadnought. Maybe 2 if they're close together. But that's not the point. The point is the frequency pulse. It will collapse every Velcor and Thrain shield within range for about 90 seconds. How big is the range? The entire Sol system. Yuna understood immediately. 90 seconds with no shields. That's when we hit them with everything. Yes, but we only get one shot. Choose the target carefully. Commodore Minho gathered his fleet commanders for the final briefing. His ship, the Phoenix Rising, was at the center of Earth's defensive sphere. Around him floated hundreds of ships from dozens of species. We defend Earth, he said simply. Whatever comes through that jump point, we stop it here. No retreat. No surrender. This is our home, our sky. They don't get to take it. Wing Commander Nari checked her fighter one last time. She had 300 pilots under her command. Good pilots. Brave pilots. Many of them wouldn't survive the next day. She knew that. They knew that. But nobody talked about it. Zek, the Krell pilot, clicked a question. Are humans afraid of death? Nari thought about it. Yes, but we're more afraid of losing what we love. Good answer. Krell think the same. The enemy fleet arrived exactly on schedule. 10,000 ships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. The sensors showed the massive armada forming into attack formation. Velcor ships on one side, Thrain vessels on the other, united by their desire to crush the rebellion. All ships to battle stations, Yuna ordered. Earth's population had been moved to underground shelters. The cities above were empty. Everyone waited in the dark, listening to the battle reports. The enemy fleet began its approach. Slow, confident. They had overwhelming numbers. They expected easy victory. Then they detected the defensive fleet. 11,000 ships waiting for them. That's not possible, the Velcor commander said. Intelligence said they had less than 1,000 ships. Neutral species, the Thrain commander replied. They're supporting the humans. Irrelevant. We outnumber them with superior vessels. Attack. The two fleets met halfway between the jump point and Earth. The largest space battle in galactic history began. Minho's strategy was simple. Create a defensive sphere around Earth. Layer it with ships of different capabilities. The tough Krell vessels formed the outer shell. Human warships created a middle layer. Fast Talrin scouts flew through gaps in the formation, hitting enemy ships and retreating. The Novar stayed back, using their long-range missiles to bombard the enemy from a distance. The battle was chaos. Explosions everywhere. Ships dying by the dozens. Nari led her fighters into the heart of the enemy formation. Her wing took terrible losses, 50 pilots dead in the first 10 minutes. But they kept fighting, kept shooting, kept dying to slow the enemy advance. Zek's fighter was hit. His ship spun out of control. Nari saw it happen and tried to help, but there were too many enemy ships. She watched helplessly as Zek's fighter exploded. "Nari, we need to pull back," said one of her pilots. "No. Forward, always forward. Make them pay for every meter." On his flagship, Minho watched the tactical display with growing concern. The enemy was pushing through. Not fast but steady. The defensive sphere was holding, but it wouldn't hold forever. "How long until they reach Earth?" he asked. "At this rate, 3 hours. 3 hours. Then the enemy would be in bombardment range. They could destroy every city on the planet." "Kill billions, Admiral Yuna," Minho called. "We need the weapon now." Yuna looked at the battle display. The enemy fleet was concentrated, pushing forward in a massive formation. "Perfect. Dr. Jisoo, fire when ready." On the moon, Jisoo activated the weapon. The lunar research facility began to glow. Energy drawn from the sun itself channeled through quantum generators. The weapon charged for 30 seconds that felt like hours. Then it fired. A beam of pure energy crossed the system in an instant. It hit the largest enemy dreadnought and vaporized it completely. 2 nearby carriers were caught in the blast and destroyed. But more importantly, the quantum frequency pulse spread through the enemy fleet like a wave. Every shield collapsed. Every single ship was suddenly vulnerable. "All ships, weapons free," Yuna ordered. "Fire everything." The defensive fleet unleashed hell. Every weapon, every missile, every railgun and plasma cannon and energy beam. The enemy ships, suddenly without shields, died by the hundreds. 90 seconds. That's all they had. 90 seconds of perfect shooting. Nari's remaining fighters dove into the unshielded enemy formation. She fired until her weapons overheated, then fired some more. Around her, pilots from a dozen species did the same. The enemy ships tried to run, tried to bring their shields back online, but 90 seconds was enough. When the shields came back, 3,000 enemy ships were gone. 30% of their fleet, destroyed in a minute and a half. The enemy advance stopped. For the first time, the Velcor and Thrain commanders felt fear. They had thought this would be easy. They were wrong. "Pull back," the Velcor commander ordered. "Regroup at the jump point." "No," the Thrain commander argued. "We can still win." But the Velcor fleet was already turning. The alliance was breaking. Old hatreds resurfaced. A Velcor destroyer fired on a Thrain cruiser, claiming it had gotten in the way. The Thrain fired back. Suddenly, the two halves of the fleet were fighting each other again. The ancient war resumed right there in Earth's system. Yuna saw it happening and gave the order. "All ships advance. Hit them while they're divided." The rebel fleet pushed forward. Now they had the advantage. The enemy was confused, fighting themselves as much as the rebels. Ships that had come to destroy Earth were being destroyed by their own allies. Minho led the charge. His ship, damaged but still functional, drove into the enemy formation. Around him, ships from 100 worlds followed. They had come to Earth's defense as strangers. Now they fought as brothers. The Battle of Sol lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the enemy fleet was running. 5,000 ships destroyed or captured. The rest fled through the jump point, the Velcor and Thrain firing at each other all the way. Earth was saved. Minho sat in his damaged command chair and allowed himself to breathe. They had won. Impossibly, incredibly, they had won, but the cost was terrible. 4,000 rebel ships destroyed, 200,000 dead. Among them was Commander Daehyun, killed when his ship was hit by a missile. Hundreds of Nari's pilots, thousands of brave Krell and Novar and Talrin and others whose names Minho would never know. 3 months later, the Galactic Council met to discuss the new reality. The Velcor and Thrain empires were in chaos, rebellions everywhere, their conquered worlds breaking free. The ancient war was still happening, but both sides were losing. Admiral Yuna addressed the council. No longer just the commander of Earth's forces, she was now the leader.